It's always fun. I bet people love the videos when they see me just walking towards the seat every time. Hey, it's Trey Lopashinsky with Energeticcity.ca. Today I'm here with Craig Wilson with Mammoth Forestry, and we're giving a little bit of an update on the Fire Smart program. It's still going on right now. They're still doing the assessments, as well as later on, in a couple minutes here, we're going to have a live demonstration. But for the time being, Craig, thank you so much for joining me again. Well, actually, thank you for welcoming me to your home. This is Craig's house we're going to be doing the demonstration on.
Yeah, no worries, Trey. Thanks for joining me here.
Yeah, and, just for a little bit of an update, we talked about the Fire Smart program last month. For those who might have missed the video, just a little bit of a refresher. What is the Fire Smart program, and how do people be fire smart?
Yeah, Trey, thanks. So Fire Smart is a public education program that we're running with the PRRD, and it's teaching people about how to minimize their risk in the face of wildfires. So we're doing that through, we're doing over 100 property assessments in the regional district, and so that's us visiting one-on-one, and we'll kind of do a bit of a breakdown of that later in the interview. And we're also going out to fairs and different public events and just teaching people about Fire Smart, which is really controlling the fuels that can fuel wildfires on their own properties so that we don't have incidents where wildfires can carry right through communities and create devastating losses that we've seen throughout the province this year. So we're really trying to control that risk ahead of time. And a good saying is, do difficult work while it's easy. It's a lot easier to manage the fuels before there's an actual wildfire.
How's the reception been like? You guys have been doing this now, I believe it's been just over a month?
Yeah, we've started in May.
So
a couple
way
months.
longer than a month, yeah.
But the reception's been really great. I think, too, people are really enjoying being social after being isolated for so long. So it's been wonderful. We've been meeting a lot of really nice people, and people really enjoy the program. So I think the most valuable thing is that it just gives people a peace of mind. So the unknown risk and the unknown hazard is a lot scarier than the actual known one. And once we give them the small steps that they need to take to minimize the risk on their property, they just have peace of mind and feel a lot more comfortable.
Well, and before we turned on the video here and went live, I even said myself, if I lived in a rural area, if I lived in the PRD, that would be something that I would want just to make myself comfortable. But, that's my opinion. But things have been going pretty good. You guys have had 90 assessments. Originally, you guys were going to do 100 with the PRD, and they extended that.
Yeah, we extended to 120 so we can reach more people, just because the program's been going so well. So
awesome. Yeah. And before we get into this assessment here, before we get into the assessment, you were talking about the fall fair and how you guys will be going to, you said you were going to be going to festivals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I heard something is happening at the fall fair this weekend.
Yeah, we'll be at the fall fair. Ember the Firefox is going to be there.
Yes, Ember the Firefox. That's what it is.
She's Canada's Smokey the Bear, so she's going to be helping people learn about keeping their homes and properties safe and minimizing the risk of wildfires. So it's pretty enjoyable for the kids to see Ember, and we've got coloring books and lots of good informational material.
That's awesome. And okay, this is seriously the last question before we do the assessment now. Just going back, since we're doing like a little bit of a refresher, just a little bit about your experience as well, Craig. You and your brother, we were talking again before this went live, started Mammoth Forestry, and kind of what's your guys' experience in the wildfire, career path?
Yeah, Trey, I started in Australia on a helicopter rappel crew and witnessed some devastating wildfire seasons down there. And then I was working with the smoke jumpers up here, based out of Fort St. John for 10 years. And I guess while we're on the topic, I'd like to acknowledge everyone that's been working really hard this season. So there's volunteer firefighters locally and firefighters from the city that are helping out, as well as the provincial firefighters. And it's been a season that started a whole month early, so everybody has been working way harder than normal. And a group that doesn't get a lot of recognition are their families that are doing without their partners, their moms and dads, for quite a long time while they're working on these wildfires. So I just, a big shout out to everybody that's working hard out there, and stay safe, please.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's, it's been awesome to see that, Fort St. John, Charlie Lake, surrounding areas have deployed firefighters to go help out. So I can't even imagine the families as well. So yeah, definitely you would know firsthand experience.
I know the firefighters always get the credit, but the families, there's a whole support crew behind them that are helping them to do this great work around the province.
So let's get into the assessment, the fun part. Let's show everyone kind of what the Fire Smart program is all about, how the assessment works. We've talked about it last month and now, but before we do that, let's just have you, Craig, say kind of what we're going to do first. I'm going to put the mic on my sweater here, and then I'm going to go behind the camera and follow you around your house.
Okay, awesome. All right, so when we go out to the properties, we have this checklist with us, and it's really just to make sure we don't miss anything as we're touring around. And the actual checklist stays with the property owner, so it doesn't go anywhere else. And what it is it's a tool for them so that in the future, because some of these mitigations might take a couple years to do, so they always have this as a record to look back to and say, oh, okay, I should look at getting rid of that tree when I have time or when I have the funds to do it. And it's basically a tool for them to use. And we can always do future assessments to see how they're tracking and how they're moving towards becoming Fire Smart.
So if you just want to show the camera, that's how the assessment looks, and then you're ranking each.
That's our checklist, yeah. Okay. So we always start at the top of the house, and we do the building envelope first. And the reason we do that is that the number one way that houses burn down is from ember attack. So when there's large forest fires, especially when they're burning in coniferous forests, which are pine and spruce, it creates a lot of convective heat. And that convective heat will pick up burning pine cones, pieces of bark, debris like that, that's large enough to stay on fire while it's transmitted through the air. And that can land over a kilometer ahead of the actual fire front itself. So we look at how those embers would land on the building and whether they would have any tinder or kindling to actually get into to start a small fire. So a lot of it is really about how those embers are acting on the building itself, which a lot of people might not know about, but it's quite intuitive once you sort of know what to look for those ember attacks. And that's why when you drive through areas where a wildfire's been through, you might see 10 houses all standing and one right in the middle that's burnt down. And that's because that house had what we call an ember trap, so just a spot with enough debris to light on fire to actually start the structure itself on fire.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So let's get into this assessment right now.
Okay. Awesome.
I don't know if we'll be able to do the full one if we have enough time, but maybe we'll do.
I can just hit the major points that we see most of the time on a lot of our assessments.
Awesome. All right, Craig.
Nice.
We're following you.
All right, so a bit of a disclaimer: we're renting this property and from a good friend, and he was good enough to let us do this interview here. But we're just making small incremental changes, so it's a really good representation of what we're seeing out in the community. It's essentially a typical acreage in the regional district. So we're looking at the roof itself. We have asphalt shingles. Asphalt and metal roof is good. It's rated fire resistant. Obviously wood shingles and shakes are not as good. We don't see a lot of that up here anyways. And then the gutters are good, they're aluminum. And we are finding that most homeowners are cleaning their gutters at least once a year. So people are doing a really good job of that. Like I said in our last interview, we went to one house where a homeowner had built an actual snorkel to reach up into his gutters. And so he had the cleanest gutters we'd seen. And then we have the eaves that are boxed in. And we start to look at the envelope itself with the siding. So although we have wood siding, a lot of people would think that that's a bad thing. But as long as it's actually sealed properly and in good condition, there's no spots for the embers to get in and to actually start a fire inside the siding. So the wood siding, yes, it increases the hazard, but not as much as you would think. And I'll just, if you follow me here, Trey, we have a look here. In the piece, one of our biggest hazards is from dry, dead, cured grass in the spring. So that's why it's beneficial to do a lot of this work in the fall, so you're ready for that spring melt when dry, dead grass can carry a grass fire right up to your home. So we look at this ground deciding clearance, And this is a really good example. A lot of homes built in the piece are on a basement foundation. So what we have here is, even if we weren't home for a matter of weeks and the dry dead grass was out of control, we have a nice big fuel break here between the siding and the actual fine fuels itself, the grass. So this is a good example. We like to have at least 15 centimeters of that ground to siding clearance. And then you can see that we fail to have that here. But another way that a lot of people don't want to tear their siding off just because we came to visit.
Yeah.
So I like to give people options that are a little bit easier to do. And that would be just creating a fuel-free break. So 1.5 meters is best. And if that's really short, clean, controlled grass, that's good. Mineral soil is the best. And gravel is a really good way to do that. So a lot of people will build a gravel strip around their house just because that way they don't have to maintain it or get too close to their house with a lawnmower. So it's kind of a win-win.
Is that how you guys have it here with the break?
So
like because there's no grass there?
That's actually because the dog dug it up. So the dog was just happened to be helping us fire smart. Yeah, in a perfect world, you would either have ground to siding clearance, which is metal or concrete, something non-combustible, or you would have a gravel strip right around. And a lot of people, that's where they get, where they're kind of set at ease when we visit, is they might find that actually half of their house is a fuel-free around it with their driveway and having a concrete porch or something like that. So that's a really good thing. And then we can keep going around to the deck, and the porch is something that we see a lot of. So this side of the house is a really good example for ground to siding clearance. There's a very low hazard there.
And that's again because of that space, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Just got a bug in the eye.
And then here's a prime example of an ember trap. So I don't know if you can see in there, Trey, just that leaf litter sitting right underneath the actual steps itself. So that's a simple mitigation step that if we clean out that leaf litter, if you think about the way you build a campfire, you always have kindling and tinder, and then you go on to your heavy stuff. So we could have an ember land on this heavy timber and not affect the home itself. But when we have this tinder and leaf litter in there, then we're actually providing a nest for that ember to turn into a small fire. So that's an easy, it's completely free, and it'll probably take 10 minutes. And it would improve this structure's ability to withstand a wildfire. And then when we're looking at decks, this deck, when it's clean, is a fine deck for fire safe, because the gaps are quite narrow, so we're not going to get large debris falling in there. And then underneath the deck, you want that to be just mineral soil, so no organic matter that can burn. Our deck here is pretty clean, but it could be better. So we'd want to either put gravel underneath and have it all mineral soil that can't burn, or another option that people like to use, some people like to store things under their deck, and if you do, then you'd want to box in the deck with a non-combustible siding that runs right down to the ground. Mm-hmm. Another option would be just a mesh that doesn't allow embers to penetrate through. So that covers our decks there. And we do see, another common thing that we see here is that people like to store their firewood pretty close to the door. Mm-hmm. When it's minus 30, not a lot of people like to travel very far. So we do suggest in the summer months that you have your firewood at least 10 meters from the house. So we can head back around here, Trey. And so firewood and also building supplies, people like to keep their house looking tidy by stacking everything up against the house, mm-hmm. which obviously isn't a good idea, because we're then providing a large combustible fuel right against the house.
So that's just saying, like, if you had all the building materials right on the side here,
Yeah.
you could easily lead up to the siding that we were talking about, which is exactly, what do you call this again when you have the space?
Ground to siding clearance.
So the clearance there, it's kind of null and void if someone was to put their building materials to the side, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we start to work our way out from the structure now. You want at least 1.5 meters from your home, free of all debris. So this is a good example on this side here. And then we move into what we call zone 1, which is 1.5 meters to 10 meters. In zone 1, you don't want any coniferous trees. So when I say coniferous, that's anything that's pine or spruce, any needled trees. The reason conifers are bad for fire safety is that they're built with fine fuels that are perfectly spaced to burn all the way up. So you can see in here, we've got dry, dead branches, and essentially that's a ladder fuel. So that can take the fire from the ground up into the air. So that's obviously not what we're looking for. And that's going to create a lot of heat close to the house. So you want up to 10 meters where you only have deciduous trees, so your leafy trees, your aspens, yeah, pretty much any deciduous. So aspen or birch would be another example. And we do have landscaping guides that we bring out to homeowners to let them know which plants are best to have around the house. So essentially, nobody's going to clear cut around their house in the first year that we start doing this, but if people take a progressive step each year to controlling the hazard, so a control measure we would suggest if the homeowner or our landlord, who I'm sorry, it's getting a little personal now.
Hey, he agreed to do it.
Were to prune up off the ground. So we suggest pruning to 2 meters. And what that does is it creates a fuel break between the ground and the limbs itself. So that way if a fire were, a simple grass fire were to come through, it wouldn't climb up this tree at all. So we suggest 2 meters. Any amount of pruning is better than no pruning. So every time we visit a home, there's best practice, and then there's we give them just simple mitigation steps that can lead them towards that best practice, because people are really balancing beautification, and they're also balancing their overall fire hazard for their area. So each area has a different hazard for a different time of year, and that's something we like to give homeowners a breakdown to, so that they can make an educated decision on how they want to manage their actual property. So a good thing is that in the regional district, a lot of people have cultivated fields around them. We have large stands of deciduous trees, so that's a really good thing. The deciduous trees are great to have around, cultivated fields are great. But if you find yourself in a stand of spruce and pine, then you really want to concentrate on those fuel management practices even more. So, and that's something that we like to let people know when we visit. Another big positive, I'll get myself back in the good books here, is all the outbuildings are at least 10 meters away. So 10 meters is the minimum. And the reason for that is that if you have an outbuilding within 10 meters, it can create so much radiant heat that it'll just ignite the structure beside it. So this is a perfect example of outbuildings are far enough away from the house that they're not going to affect the structure itself. So that's a great setup. Campers parked well away from the house, which is good. And the wood pile is far away from the house. So that's a really good setup. Yeah, did you have any questions, Trey? I can't really go into everything into detail like we would on site with
because I'm guessing we would be here. Definitely that's going to take a little bit. Well, we're a little bit over time right now, Craig, so just wrapping up, what are some other things that would be assessed when you guys are walking around the properties other than what we have already looked at?
So we would just start to work our way further out from the home. So our next zone would be zone 2, and you can then start to have your coniferous trees. And when you have them, you just want them spaced 3 meters apart so that you don't get a continuous crown fire. So you just have your trees separated a little bit, and then intermix your leafy trees in there as well. And essentially you can get wilder and wilder as you get further from the home, as long as you're not impacting your neighbors.
Yeah.
Also I wanted to make sure if anybody wants us to visit their property, just to visit prrd.bc.ca/firesmart. We'd love to come out. It's great. The more people we meet, we learn ourselves along the way. We've met some folks that have fought fires with dozers back in the 70s and stuff like that. And it's kind of cool to share information. And so even if you think you have it all figured out, have us out. We can have a conversation and go from there. It's really positive for everybody.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much, Craig. And again, this weekend at the North Peace Fall Fair, Ember.
Yeah, Ember the Firefox is going to be there.
That's so awesome. I'm just going to switch it around. Thank you so much again, Craig, for having me out to your buddy's home where you're living right now to do the assessment. I was born with a selfie stick. Again, Craig Wilson with Mammoth Forestry, talking about the Fire Smart program and how to be fire smart. We did a little bit of an assessment here. Again, thank you so much, Craig. I'm Trey Lopushinsky with Energeticcity.ca. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. It's Monday. Smile.